Hello and good afternoon to the Ask the Expert session to the digital breakout about safeguard your multi-cloud apps and resources with the latest security innovations. First of all, how to engage with the experts in this session. You can use the chat to ask questions. They will then appear to all the attendees once they are approved by a moderator. You can upvote your favorite questions using a thumbs up, and the experts will answer the questions verbally and over chat determined by the moderator. At the end of the session, we will provide more resources to give you more information about the things that we're talking about in this session. So this session may be recorded with like all the other sessions during Microsoft Ignite as well. And please help our moderators not to spam or post inappropriate comments in the chat. And adhere to the Microsoft Code of Conduct that has been posted to the chat already. And I have added it as a slide deck here as well again. Now let's meet the experts. I'm going to introduce myself first. My name is Tom. I'm a senior program manager in the customer experience engineering team focused on Azure Security Center and Azure Defender. And I'm handing it over to Aidan.
Hey, I'm Idan, product manager in IAMCAS, Microsoft Cloud App Security, focused on data leakage prevention and API connectors in IAMCAS.
My name is Leo Arviv, and I am a program manager within the Azure Security Center and Defender customer experience team.
Thank you. Now you've already learned about our approach when it comes to safeguard multi-cloud apps and resources. And what we're going to focus on in this session is we're going to talk about how to strengthen your multi-cloud security posture using cloud security posture management with Azure Security Center. We're going to talk about how to protect your cloud workloads using Azure Defender, and also how to control activity across cloud apps using Microsoft Cloud App Security. The integrated threat protection for your enterprise. Let me just go one step further. The integrated threat protection for your enterprise was just announced during this Microsoft Ignite. So under the Microsoft Defender XDR brand, we have now two pillars. One for Azure Defender, one is called Microsoft 365 Defender. With Azure Defender focusing on security posture management and threat protection for both resources in Microsoft Azure as well in other clouds, and on-premises. And on the other hand, we have the Microsoft 365 Defender with a focus on user accounts and devices, as well as applications and data across your organization. Now, the potential questions that you can raise for our experts are the capability areas like cloud security posture management, workload protection, and cloud access security broker, the IAMCAS solution we are having, and always focused on all of the three pillars like IaaS, PaaS, and software as a service environments. And the product areas we're focusing on are Azure Security Center and Azure Defender, as well as Microsoft Cloud App Security. Now, the first question that we have, Leo, maybe you can take this one, is can you recap the announcements around Azure Defender? I've been talking to several customers throughout the days during Microsoft Ignite, and what they wanted to know the most was like, is this just a new name or a name change, or do we also have other capabilities now as well?
Okay, great. So basically, this is a good question that I got as well from my customer. So basically, just to put more clarity, so we still have Azure Security Center. We just got a new user interface for that. So we celebrate it with a new user interface. And to make more clarity and to simplify things, we actually divided it to three major pillars. So we have the Secure Score or Azure Secure Score, alongside with the recommendation that we are all familiar with. We have the regulatory compliance, and we have the third pillar, which is Azure Defender, which previously we call it as the threat protection or the detection part, which is the CWPP. And this is not just a new brand or a new name. This actually allows allow us to get more opportunities or to protect more services, as you mentioned. So with Azure Defender, we can actually protect multi-cloud. If we have resources in other clouds like AWS or GCP, we can now, leveraging Azure Arc, can protect EC2 instances or VMs in GCP, and also get the recommendations that the native platform provides. So we have one console, single pane of glass that we see all our Azure resources and recommendation, the multi-cloud, and also the on-premise. But this is not just that. Azure Defender also contains all the capabilities that we use so far, the just-in-time access, adaptive application control, and so on. So previously we had the ATP for a service like Azure Threat Protection for Azure Storage. So we now have Azure Defender for storage, or Azure Defender for Key Vault. And speaking on Key Vault, we just announced, alongside with the Azure Defender announcement, new alerts for Azure Key Vault. And this is not just that. With Azure Defenders, we now protect AKS services and Azure Container Registry with new recommendations that we provide. In July, we acquired CyberX company. So for now, all the IoT capabilities are now under the Azure Defender for IoT. And of course, in the future, we will announce more services under the Azure Defender brand.
Thank you. That was a very good answer to this question. Regarding AMCAS, I got a question that we see that new DLP capabilities are being extended to AMCAS. Idan, can you tell me more about this?
Yes, of course. So new DLP capabilities in AMCAS, we have more than 115 sensitive types that are predefined, as well as the capability to define by yourself a custom type to get the sensitive information that you want. In addition, we have the trainable classifier. Then in those classifiers, you can bring cluster of data, and we use machine learning algorithms in order to classify and build an algorithm that search for this sensitive information by the data you give it in advance. In this trainable classifier as well, we have predefined and built-in classifiers to use, as for example for source code or harassment words, and etc. In addition, we extended our capability to M365 and Security and Compliance Center, and we can use unified portal to Microsoft application and to non-Microsoft application in order to create and manage DLP policies.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, when we're talking about cloud security posture management with Azure Security Center, Lior, you just explained to us what the new Azure Defender capabilities are, and can you talk a little bit more about cloud security posture management with ASC?
Yes, of course. So with the new enhancements and capabilities that we just revealed during Ignite, we now provide better modifications or maybe a better remediation for your recommendations in Security Center. So basically, customers ask us for a few capabilities, like the way to improve the security misconfiguration. So for now, we can actually enforce or deny recommendations when creating new resources. So for example, if I have a recommendation to allow only secure access to a storage account, I can actually deny from now, create new resources with no secure channel. So this is not just the auditing, it's also the enforcement or even deny. Another ask that we got from customers is to actually exempt resources. So let's assume that I have a recommendation and I have some resources that I actually would like to exempt. and I don't want them to reduce my score because they are currently unhealthy, or maybe I just wanted to exempt it for a specific time. So with the new exemption feature, we can actually go to a specific recommendation, click on the specific resource as exempted for a specific reason. And the third capability that we are announcing is the ability to disable a specific security check or security finding as part of a recommendation. So let's assume that you have the immediate vulnerabilities on your resource, and you have a specific check that one of them is not relevant to you. So instead of having it unhealthy on your resources, you can also disable specific findings for that recommendation as well, and of course other capabilities that we expose during the Ignite.
So it's pretty much about, let's say, fine-tune the cloud security posture management for customers, so they can really decide for what is important for them and what is less important, so they can focus on the more important things now. Without having their secure score dropping for resources that are not in consideration.
Right.
Nice. So we just had this DB100 session, DB160 session before this ATE, and one question I got there that was pretty interesting was someone asking regarding AMCAS. How do we start with AMCAS when we say we want to do a new rollout? We want to introduce this solution in our environment. What would be your approach to start with the product?
So first of all, our most important thing is to understand the shadow IT applications that are in the organization. For this, we can have the discovery capability of AMCAS, or via Microsoft Defender, or via Zscaler, or any other endpoint that we can have. In this capability, we see that we discover all the applications that organization uses, and beside discover them, an assessment by the catalog if they are risky or not. In this catalog, we have more than 16,000 applications. Afterwards, we can sanction an approved or unapproved or disapprove these applications. After you discover these applications, you can connect AMCAS to this application through API or through reverse proxy that is in a real-time application connection. And in this connection, you can manage these the built-in policies of AMCAS.
Okay, and when we talk about introducing new solutions into an environment, then of course customers want to know, how can I start with Azure Security Center? And once I start the rollout, Leo, what would be your approach, to start and to focus on first?
Yes, so basically, if customers start to use the free tier, I would recommend to go over the recommendation. So basically, in the recommendation, we have the security controls, and the way to look at it is from up to bottom. So let's focus on the most important things, like enforcing MFA or enabling MFA, or immediate vulnerabilities like installing missing updates, and some other recommendations. And of course, once we review it, we can also go on and turn Azure Defender to get the extra or the advanced capabilities. And in that case, you should ask yourself on which scenario you would like to focus on. And some other customers also ask how to do the deployment or how to run a POC. And for that as well, in all the scenarios, we also publish a blog post that you can actually go through and plan your deployment or your POC and decide for which scenario or scenarios you would like to focus on.
All right. When we talk about automation, and those of you who know me know that I'm very passionate about automation and about community work. Idan, how can we use automation within the scope of AMCAS? So is there something that we can automate or that we can automatically react on in Cloud App Security?
Yes, so we have two kinds of automation. First of all, through MS Power Automate, we can automate different kind of actions. For example, if we catch anomaly in a user activity, impossible traveler, or just a file that got caught in a policy that was that searched for social security number, etc., we can see that we can build an automation for open immediately Jira ticket or Teams channels to say this specific user that he violates a policy of the organization. In addition, not only the MS Power Automate automation we can do, we can have all the automation through the API of IAMCAS to get information about files that match policies, to see all the files in your organization, not only in IAMCAS by PowerShell or different kind of tools that you want.
That sounds good. And of course, Lior, I got the same question for you about automation with Azure Security Center. So what can we, from the ASC point of view, offer to our customers when it comes to automation and maybe remediation at scale?
Mm-hmm. So we all want, I guess that we all want to make our environment governed and automated as possible. And for that, we have several options. So the first of all is workflow automation. So all workflow automations allow you when a new recommendation or a new event is actually pops up, you can actually trigger Azure Logic App. So I can decide, for example, if a new recommendation is coming, for example, a new recommendation to install our vulnerability assessment solution, which is powered by Quali. So once we get this recommendation, we can trigger a Logic App that does it for us. So I can get or extract the VM ID and actually call an ARM, perform an ARM call to install Qualys. Of course, we can have it for alerts. If an alert pops up, I can actually post a new message to Teams or trigger any other Logic App that you can actually think about. This is one thing. The second thing is through the alerts. So sometimes I'm going over the alerts, and for a specific alert, for example, for a brute force, I would like to deny the IP that actually try to attack or to put it on a deny in the NSG. So we can also leverage Logic App that can do it for us. And of course, we can use Azure Policy to do the automation at scale. So I can decide that I would like to deploy the VA solution using Logic App, or I can do it at scale using Azure Policy. So once the evaluation actually starts or happen, it will automatically deploy the extension all my virtual machines. Or on another scenario, if I have, for example, recommendation that each subnet should have NSG, I can use a deploy if not exist policy to attach an NSG to a subnet that currently does not have NSG attached. So we can have several ways to accomplish automation.
That's awesome. And to add some more context to that, we are running the Azure Security Center open source GitHub community, which we are using to put automation templates there, so samples that you can use in your environments. But we want also to encourage you to help us, bringing more artifacts to this GitHub repository. So I will share a link later, which will direct to the GitHub repository to show you what kind of artifacts you will find there. And it's starting from PowerShell scripts over what Lior just said. So the policy templates, we have logic apps there that will be automatically triggered starting from the workload automation. So there's a whole lot of things that you can use for remediation at scale in there. And as well, we want to encourage you to also share your artifacts with the community. So if there's something that you want to have published in the GitHub community, you can do it by just clicking the link that I will share later on, and let us know about the awesome artifacts that you are building. Now, there's one question that just popped up in the chat, and it is regarding ATP or Defender capabilities and AMCAS. And the question is, what is coming in this section regarding the integration for shadow IT? So do we have some plans to to integrate AMCAS and I think it's related to MDATP or the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, so it's called now, and to AMCAS.
Yeah, so actually we already integrated, and now you can see and use the integration between MDATP, Microsoft Defender, that are in the that is in the endpoints, the end devices, with AMCAS. That means that for shadow IT, instead of using log collector and to collect all your logs from the gateway and give it to AMCAS, it will be automatically configured through Defender if you just click on the setting page in AMCAS, and we get all the information, and you can see all the shadow IT applications that you have, and automatically sanction or unsanction these apps.
Okay, and anything you want to share in regards of news that have really just been announced, which is just like out of the press for AMCAS right now?
Yes. First of all, one of the questions was about cloud security posture management in Azure. AMCAS has the capability of doing the cloud security posture management for the configuration of GCP and AWS as well this year. So you get the granularity in GCP and AWS and not only for Azure. In addition, the new API connectors for GitHub, Workday, and GCP activities are shown, and a new and super cool feature to detect malware in real time when a user upload or download file to the cloud. We can detect if it's a malware file or not, and decided to block it or not if it's not malware. And it's super cool that we can do it in real time and not wait to file a threat inspection.
That sounds great. Liora, I just got another question coming in from Bob, and he said he's new to using Azure Security Center and he has not pushed it into a productive environment yet, just in a dev setup for his subscription. But he's asking if Security Center provides information related to a website and the resources used, for example, virtual machines, on the Security Center dashboard. He said he saw it in an earlier version that Qualys is used, and if that is also applied to review of website security assessments.
Okay, so basically for web applications, we have web apps, we have a few recommendations, and currently Qualys, so our integrated vulnerability assessment support containers and VMs. We do have plans to have VA for web apps, but currently the VA supports only VMs and websites and containers.
All right. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on the Qualys integration that we're having and the vulnerability assessments in Azure Security Center?
Yeah. So basically, we divided to two things. We divided to, if we're talking about VM, we talk about the vulnerabilities that we find in these VMs, like missing patches or things or configurations that you should take care on. And the other thing are vulnerabilities that we find inside the VM, for which requires actually an extension. So once you decide or you turn on Azure Defender, you get the vulnerabilities, the VA out of the box. And to do that, you should actually deploy the extension on those machines. So we should have the log analytics agent and the agent for Qualys installed on the VM, which is provided as part of the Azure Defender. And from now, once you turn it on, you get the recommendations in the console. And for AKS or for containers, it's agentless, so you don't need to install the Qualys. Once you do both things, you can get two recommendations, one for VMs and the other for for containers, so you can actually go between them and start remediate the vulnerabilities that we find on those particular two services. And all of the data is actually inside Security Center console. Some other customers use Qualys today, so you can also bring your own license and see the findings in the console, but this is only for VMs.
Okay, thank you. And we got one additional question to the topic regarding Defender for Endpoint and IAMCAS integration. That is focused on if the product group is working in this space, like, do you know about new capabilities that are planned to be there anytime soon, which we can already talk about? Is there something that is planned? So it refers to the question that we had before regarding the integration of Defender ATP or Defender for Endpoint and IAMCAS.
Now we are working on extending our capabilities of Endpoint CASB to have more granularity in the reverse proxy scenarios. This is the first direction that we work on. The second direction is to be compatible not only to Defender in the endpoints that we have today as to another endpoints. And the third is give DLP capabilities as well, but this is more in the long term.
Okay, thank you. And there's just another question popping in from Sasha, who asks if there are any updates about protecting Apple computers via Azure Security Center.
I guess that protecting Apple computers is more to the endpoint side of the house, but in general, currently we do not have such plans.
Yeah, I mean, as we talked about before, we said that Azure Defender basically is focused on management of resources in Azure and in other clouds. So it's basically about the backend infrastructure and networking and servers. So endpoint protection is basically what Microsoft Defender for Endpoint would be aiming for. And unfortunately, this is not part of this discussion today. So we're coming to an end. And let me see if there are some questions left. No, I think we have discussed all the questions that have been there. So what we want to do now is we want to give you your next steps. And the next steps are well, basically the most important ones for you now. Because first thing is go ahead and monitor your Azure Secure Score, because Secure Score is your main KPI when it comes to cloud security posture management, and work on your top 5 recommendations today, because these are the recommendations that will have the highest Secure Score impact. And the higher the Secure Score impact is, the more important it is to remediate those recommendations. After that, go ahead and enable Azure Defender to protect your hybrid workloads, including virtual machines, data, storage, and containers. And then use Cloud App Security to discover apps, block unsanctioned use, and control access to sensitive data. In addition to that, I have some more information for you here with sessions regarding the same topics. To learn more, you find more resources in the links below. And yeah, enjoy the rest of this conference. It is a virtual one, but nevertheless a great one. And thank you for having us today. Thank you to the experts. It was great talking to you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.